Hi, I'm Filippo and I'm the founder at Vista.io. Today we're looking at what are the best strategies to renew your SaaS contracts. Even this might seem quite of a straightforward topic. Actually, the average business today has at least 50 to 60 software subscriptions, and these numbers tend to go up when we go, for example, to enterprise companies that have 400, 500 contracts. So it's very important that you have a strategy on how to manage your tech stack and your renewals efficiently. The first thing to do is to make sure that you have a calendar with all your softwares and their renewals date. So you can be sure what software are renewing next month and so on. And for each software, what you have to do is to make sure also that you know what's the auto renewal status, if it is there or if it is not. Keep in mind that usually auto renewal clauses are present in the majority of the SaaS renewals. Therefore, this is something that we need to keep an eye on. And an auto renewal is generally 90, 60, or 30 days. This means that if you don't action your contract before the auto renewal starts, then this contract legally can auto renew and you cannot cancel it for another set period. So it's very important not to miss these steps. Once you have built your calendar, the next things to do is to do some research about the vendors that you have to renegotiate with. So let's say that I'm a small startup with 100 employees and my renewal with Salesforce is approaching. So how should I take that? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do in this case. The first one is do a research about their fiscal year. Yes, because knowing this piece of information can allow you to have more leverage in the conversation. For example, knowing that the fiscal year of Salesforce ends in December 31st gives me more power to negotiate my renewal at the end of the year, because I can ask a bigger discount, because usually salespeople are stressed, they want to go on holidays, and they ask bigger discounts to their managers. The other thing you want to do is you want to anticipate what are your vendors' goals. So in the case of Salesforce, we need to understand what kind of demands they're going to have in the renewal. If, for example, I have already a large discount, it's very likely that in the renewal conversation, they will try to push up the price by quite a lot, because they're going to use the excuse, hey, you already had discounts last year, plus this year's we have increased prices. And keep in mind that SaaS businesses, they tend to increase their prices every year by 10-20% depending on the cases. Starting a conversation early with a vendor is always a good idea. First, you are going to make sure that you have enough time to negotiate. I cannot tell you how much, in my experience, I had to negotiate contract in just 2 days when actually they required weeks. And if the vendor is really important for you, meaning you cannot switch, it's critical that you start early, because for important vendors, you want to have enough time to negotiate the contracts. One other strategy that is very effective is to understand how much other businesses are paying for the same vendor. These informations can be found either online, or you can just on Vista.io, and you have a directory there where you can see the information for your specific vendors. And this is very powerful because you give your counterpart no leverage on you. If you know that someone is paying less for the same, you can use this information to at least get the same value out of this deal. One factor that you can negotiate and that many people don't know about is the contract length, because the average standard contract is to pay annual upfront. So it's 12 months long and you pay all the cash at the very beginning. Now, in this case, there are a couple of things you can negotiate. The first one is the contract length. If you know that you are going to stick with this vendor very long because it's important to you, extend the 12 months to 24 or 36, because this can unlock another 5-10% discount depending on the vendor. The other thing is also the payment terms. So annual upfront is a payment term and that's standard, but you can also negotiate shorter payment terms. For example, instead of paying every 12 months, you can pay every 6 months. And you wonder why this is important. Because when interest rates are actually quite high, what you can do is you can say that 6 months of spend, keep them in a saving account and generate yields on that. And this is also the same excuse that you can use if you're paying annual upfront to one of your vendors. You can say, hey, look, yes, I'm giving all this money annual upfront, but at least I need to get a 5-10% discount because I'm losing margin. I could keep this in the bank, that would make me even more money. One other great strategy is also to understand how much your business has used this specific software. So if it's a consumption based, that should be pretty straightforward. And instead, if it's a seat based, you can actually ask reports to your vendors. And here what we're doing is we're trying to collect information to understand how much my business actually needs this tool. And also what I want to do is I want to keep an eye around the business and understand if there are other tools that are overlapping with the one that I'm about to renew. And you can do that, for example, by asking on Slack if someone else is using that, or on Vstack, for example, we have pages where they show you when there is overlap in your business, and you can inform better your strategy when you know that. Think about this, like when you sit with your counterpart and you are negotiating, you can say, look, we actually like your tool, but we are only using 60% of it, and we know we don't need this and that. And we actually have identified another competitor of yours that fits our need, costs less. So why should we stick with you? Make it difficult for your counterpart to negotiate with you. Don't leave anything on the table. One tip is also to make sure that your contract does not have an auto renewal. And the reason for that is it gives you more leverage in the renewal conversation because nothing can be triggered from the counterpart side. And the other one is that if the person that is currently managing the contract leaves the company in some ways and there is no handover, it can happen that people forget, the business forget about this renewal coming up. So what you want to do in that case is you want the other rep reaching out to you and flagging that, hey, this contract is coming up for renewal, and you're like, okay, great, let's see it. Because otherwise, I've seen companies, what they do is they know that this contract is coming up for renewal and there is no one from the client side reaching out. What they do is they just forget about it and this contract renews, and then you have issues about the renewal process because the contract auto-renew now and you are locked in another 12 months contract with the same vendors that you probably don't need. And to conclude, everything can be negotiated. When you're sitting at the table, nothing is off. You can negotiate the price, and if you see that the other part is willing to give you a discount, for example, you can ask them to give you more support or to give you more CSM time, whatever it is. And on the other hand, you can also be generous with your vendor. You can say, hey, if you give me a 50% discount here, what I can do is also making sure that we can do a case study for you, because these are also very valuable for the vendor themselves. So as you can see, there is a lot that you can negotiate in a deal, but everything comes to preparing well for each renewal. So making sure you do your own work. And yeah, I hope this has been helpful. If you have questions, please comment below.